Picture this, it's Fashion Week. Inside the venue, a model walks out in a coat that's basically screaming luxury. Outside, there are protest signs and chants. That tension is not new. The use of fur has been a morally contested practice since the late 1970s and early 80s, when animal rights groups began campaigning against it. And the activists weren't subtle. They went after producers directly because fashion is supply-driven. If fashion houses don't put fur on the runway, customers can't really choose it in the first place. Media coverage followed, and the controversy became part of the culture. But here is the weird part. For a long time, it didn't move the industry the way you would expect. Most fashion houses refused to budge. They argued that their creative freedom was non-negotiable, that fashion shouldn't be boxed in by society's rules. And then, slowly, over the first 2 decades of the 21st century, fur started to decline on the runway, season after season. So what actually happened? Hi, I'm Sumit Malik, a researcher at the University of Amsterdam, and welcome to The Devil Wears Data, where I break down research for regular people. Because here is the problem. A lot of research is basically inaccessible. And honestly, that makes sense. Scientists usually write papers for other scientists, not for you and me. But if you're curious, I'm here for you. In one study, researchers at INSEAD examined fur use by fashion houses from spring 2000 to fall 2018. They tracked whether each fashion house used real fur over time across major fashion capitals such as Paris, Milan, London, and New York. They paired runway coverage from Vogue, a major gatekeeper, meaning it helps define what counts as legitimate taste in fashion, with records of anti-fur actions reported in newspapers. What they found was striking. After Vogue started describing fur as unethical, its use by fashion houses declined significantly. And here is the surprising part. High-status fashion houses react more once the gatekeeper's framing changed. Why is that? The authors argue that gatekeepers translate moral pressure into insider language. If criticism sounds like it belongs inside the industry's own conversation, brands treat it as a real risk. So the real leverage isn't the loudest protest, it's who gets to officially frame the issue. When a prominent gatekeeper starts translating outsiders' moral concerns, elite producers who depend on gatekeepers to maintain their high status are more likely to stop using fur. And once the high status houses stop, other fashion houses tend to follow because they think it's safe. This also helps explain something important. Activism alone doesn't always move brands, especially when the critique stays outside the field. The lesson isn't just aim at the biggest logo, but aim at the biggest microphone inside the industry. And if you're a top brand, your decision doesn't just affect you, it becomes a signal. A public line in the sand that changes what everyone else thinks they can do without backlash. An important thing to note here is that this dynamic is more likely when there are a few powerful tastemakers and when the practice shifts from controversial to morally unacceptable. So what happens when a morally ambiguous practice, like the use of generative AI, starts disrupting an industry? If you are interested to know more, click on the linked video below. Thank you for your attention and joining me in Devil Wears Data today. See you in the next video with more details.